Welcome to this InterAcct software demonstration. On this particular video we're going to be looking at putting in an employee timesheet against a job. Now what we're seeing at the moment is a standard sort of main menu for InterAcct, and in fact menu number 3 here is our database of jobs. Now we do have some existing jobs on our database that we can put our timesheet against, and under the jobs menu we're going to be actually putting in a timesheet, and let's just do that straight away now. So I'll select menu number 4, which is the jobs menu. Quite a big menu. And right down here we can see job cost transactions, and part of those transactions 22, 23 and 24 are 3 different alternate ways of putting a timesheet against a job. Now I'm going to take just what we call the standard way first up and show you how easy it is to put a timesheet entry in. Now it comes up automatically with a search screen on the timesheet entry file, so that allows us to search on date, or indeed a range of dates, or indeed we could search on employee, or a combination of those two things, or any of the other fields that we're seeing here. I'm not going to bother searching, I'm just going to click on the Start Search button. And it brings up a list of existing timesheets, and I'm going to add a new one. So I'm going to come up to this big green plus button to add a new record, or of course I can use the plus key on my keyboard to add as well. So I'm just going to press that. And here we are, we're in the timesheet entry screen. This is actually a summary screen, and it says we're adding a new record, and it's asking us for the date. Now accompanying this field is a help text down at the bottom, but we can just press the enter key and it will default to today's date and move us straight on to the next field, which is a list of employees. Now this is not a complete list of employees, it's only those employees that actually are designated as related to timesheets, and I'll just choose the first one up here, Brad Demison. Now it's brought in his default charge rate, which is for a normal time. Now we can override that if we wanted to at this point in time, and it's also saying how many hours we expect from this person to work each day. So I'm just going to press enter to accept that. By the way, if we wanted to go into the employee database, and we will do that during this video, we can just click on this button here, or indeed this little tab menu here, and it'll take us into the employee database, and we can change such things as what they're being paid, their direct overhead recovery, and of course that cost per hour total there. Without further ado, I'm just going to go into the put in a timesheet, so you can see it's menu number 1, so I'll just press enter. Nothing in there at the moment. So all I need to do is press the enter key, or again the plus key, and that will put me into add mode. So we're now adding a timesheet entry. Now the first step in the data entry process is to select the job that you're going to be doing this work on. Now there's 2 options here. You can search on the job number, or what we call the job identifier. Now the job identifier, or ID, is really just a simple combination between the customer's name and the job number. So if you can't remember a job number but you remember the customer name, such as Sunshine might be SUN, that'll start the search. Just press enter and it brings up a list of that particular client's jobs. In this case there's only one, so I'll select that. You can see it's job number 1 anyway. Next step in the data entry process, now this is an option within InterAcct, is to break down your job costs by what we call phase, or if you prefer to call it sub-job or stage of work. So you can actually get a cost breakdown, budget, actual variance by a phase within a job. So this is bringing up a list of phases for this particular job. It's actually a civil engineering style job, so I'm just going to select number 3 in this instance, and now it's asking me for the normal time on this particular job. Let's just say it was 5.5 hours. It's asking me for travel time. Now this field may not relate to your business, in which case we can take it off the display, as we can the other 2 fields below it, which is time and a half and double time. Even the formulas that are done with in terms of time and a half and double time can be personalised to suit your situation. So I might just say half an hour for travel time, no time and a half or double time. And now it's saying, is the job actually completed or done? Now if you say Y for yes on this particular question, what will happen is it will change automatically the job status code from being work in progress, which is what it is at the moment. It'll change it to be completed, now ready for invoicing. So it'll just do that automatically. Now lastly, as far as our data entry fields, are 2 optional fields, which is just a little notes about what was actually the work that was undertaken on this particular day. So I'm just going to put in here, peg out site ready for excavation. Couple of lines of comments if you need them there, and I just now when I press enter, it's going to save that record automatically, and indeed post all the job costs in relation to this entry to the job. If you can see those costs here, it's actually calculated them out, breaking it down to what's being paid and the direct overhead recovery for this employee. The charge out rate has been calculated in terms of the expected sell price or invoice cost. Indirect overheads calculated as well, which all these things can be changed to suit your situation. There's just this notes file down the bottom here. It's already put in that particular note that we typed in here, but it allows us to put any number of work notes against this particular timesheet entry, which again can be an inquiry under the job, so you can see who's worked on the job by date and any notes they wanted to make about what work they actually performed. Now at this point we could go in and view the job details and show what's actually been updated. We will do that in a moment, but just before we do that, I'll go back one step and show you that this one line entry that we've worked on for these 5 hours with travel time, etc., total of 6 hours work, it's actually updated this employee summary for Brad on this particular date. Now this date could be a week ending, or it could be an actual work date, and it's showing you a breakdown of their time in terms of normal time, time and a half, etc., non-charge time. By the way, you'll see at this menu here that we can, I'll just close that box down so you can see it more clearly. So at the payroll summary menu, you can also enter not only chargeable time, which we did under menu 1, but also non-chargeable time against jobs, which might be when you're preparing tenders and quotations, that sort of stuff, doing estimating. You may want to record what hours have been spent that aren't able to be recovered. And in addition to that, you can have non-chargeable time that is not related to jobs, such as, again, it might be repairs and maintenance work that's been undertaken, or cleaning tasks, filling in timesheets, that sort of stuff, which is admin time. So you can analyse that against the employee to see analysis by month of what time was charged, non-charged, hours written off, which is one of the options in this case, and also non-charged time analysis of if they weren't working and charging their time to jobs, what were they doing. And in addition to times, you can also put allowances that may be paid to employees in relation to jobs, so again those costs can be recorded correctly against the jobs. At this point you can actually add to that list of non-chargeable reasons, and here's a list here that's an example list, and you can also add to your allowance types as well at this point. Anyway, now we'll go back into the timesheet and have a look at a little bit more detail about the timesheet. Well, just before we go into the job details, which as you can see is menu number 7, it's number 6 here, a couple of things we just skipped by, if you like. One of them was this thing called labour type. Now, an employee can be designated as being a certain type of labour, which will generally relate to when you're estimating and do budget controls in terms of budget analysis versus actual costs and variance analysis on that. One employee actually can have several different labour classes, and indeed in regard to those labour classes could have different costs, but certainly possibly different charge out rates for doing different sorts of work. So for instance, if they were a leading hand on certain jobs but a tradesman on others, you could have different charge rates for that employee against the job. What's actually happened too, that the system calculates different labour charge rates, so you can have what we call contract rates set up for this particular job. So you might say a leading hand is a contract rate that's different to the normal charge rate for an employee, or again those contract rates could relate to a client, so that all jobs that you do for a particular client for a certain class of employee is at a certain agreed charge rate. So there's quite a lot of sort of behind the scenes work to work out what we should charge this job out at. The other thing that we can do at this particular point, just again before we go and view the job, if we needed to, we can go and do things like stock issues. So if you've got on your timesheets they've used these materials or they've included these expenses in terms of expense recovery, or what we call disbursements, those can actually be entered right at this point. So you don't have to come out of timesheets to be able to say, look, they use these glues or screws or nuts or various other sundry costs that we want to recover, or they've issued these materials from maybe their van or some such thing. You can do all those sorts of things right here. Okay, so let's go and have a look at the job now. Here we are. This is the job header screen, and it's got the client details and where the work's been conducted in terms of the site address. You can see the status of the job is at work in progress. what category of work, and this is job type, which is civil engineering style work. Again, you can change these to suit yourself, of course, the project name. And of course this menu here all relates to this one job. Now what I wanted to do is just go into the transactions and processes area, which is a sort of the control room for the job. Okay, so all the sort of main menus in relation to this one job. And what I wanted to show you that if we come right down to this area here, visual search inquiries, starting off with all the grand totals, this is like a financial summary if you like. And you can see there's a group of fields here relating to costs, and one of those is the actual cost. You can see it's $1,881. Now that's already been updated by that last timesheet entry we put in. There's nothing more that is required there. Now if we want to drill down and see what those total costs are made up of, we can go to the job cost ledger. There's again the familiar search screen facility so we can search by a range of dates if we wanted to, or any combination of these fields. I'm not going to bother, I'm just going to press the start search button, and here is a list of costs. And if we have a look right at the top here, Brad is a labour group, leading hand, where does it come from? And you can see there's a whole cost situation. Oh, in fact, there's one beneath it here. 5.5 hours, $270 is the cost. What we should sell it for, or the expected sell, has been calculated, and indeed the profit in this case you can see is a 50% markup. So that labour entry has already gone against the job cost ledger. And we also see a breakdown by phases. Again, if we have a look at the actual costs, or actual hours here, those hours that we've just put in against PITS, number 6 hours there, that's already been updated. And of course we can drill down into labour class, which was leading hand, and again that 6 hours has been posted against that particular job to get us budget, actual and variance analysis against the job. All that's been updated from that very simple timesheet entry we did. So the cost was broken down in total, and in this case by individual ledger item in the job cost ledger, which might be used later for doing an automatic draft invoice to the customer. It's broken down by phase, also by cost group, which are your main cost groups of labour, materials and so on. So here we have labour. So what I'm going to do first up is go to the list of jobs and show you how you actually create open a job first to schedule it, and then attach various employees to work against that job. So I'm going to go into the employee database, menu number 3. It comes up automatically with the search screen. I'm not going to bother searching, I'm just going to press enter to see a list of jobs, and I'll call up that job that we just put a timesheet against, job number 7 on that list. Now here's that job header screen. Again, you can see the client, the site location, and we've classified the job by status and by category, etc., and job type. Menu number 1 for this job is open the job and schedule. So I'm going to go there and show you that now. So what this allows us to do when we open the job is to find the work status. In this case, work in progress is the default status. We can define the basis under which we've won the job, in this case a contract rate, but again you can change this list to suit yourself for contract basis. Who's the employee that's the project manager or looking after the job? Again, that will provide that list you can select from. And you can obviously nominate the date you won the work, won the job, and and a customer contract number or job work authority number can be attached to the job as well. And you can search on that, of course. So if the client's giving their reference number, you can find the job. We can also link the job to the successful quotation that you prepared previously, so you can say that that job was based on that quote. And down through here we've got the expected work start date, which is in this case for Brad, and time and when he's going to finish in the time, and the overall budget hours for this particular job. Okay, so once we've done that, oh by the way, there's the contract value up here too. What it does, it sets up an employee work schedule. So it's done, in this case we've got the starting entry of being on the Saturday, and I put in another entry for today's date. But you can have any number of employees, not just one employee, working on this or scheduled to work on this job by date and by time, and even to nominate what sort of work are they expected to do on those particular dates. Now the simple entry of these things here, this information here, updates the work schedules automatically. So let's close that down and go back to the main menu. And here we are back at the main menu, and now let's have a look at the job menu. And you can see here we've got a whole swag of job schedules. Well, one of the schedules that's updated as a result of opening up the job is seeing a list of jobs by their one date. Now, if I go in here and show you an example of a schedule like this, a work schedule, we can search, of course, on any combination of these fields: job status, job type, whatever, employee. But I won't bother searching, just show you a list. Here's a list of jobs. In this case, they're not sorted by job number, they're actually sorted by the date in which the job was won. So again, you could search on a range of any combination of these fields, those by status, by range of dates, by employee that's managing the jobs, anything you like. Alright, so that's just a schedule of jobs. I'll come out of that. And we get the same, that the schedule was by date 1, number 38. Number 39 is the same schedule sorted by the due start date. Next one down, number 40, due start date, but sorted also first by job type. So that would allow you to see all your, if you had service repair style jobs, you could see all those, or new construct jobs, or whatever, however you classify your job types, it'll be sorted there in that sequence. Number 41 is to see a schedule of jobs by their due completion date. 42 by branch, if that's applicable. If that's not applicable, of course, that menu will come off. Don't need to see that displayed. Or sorted by region, where the work's actually being done. And lastly, number 44, a schedule of jobs by subcontractors. So you can attach subcontractors to do different aspects of the work on a job, and then see a schedule of who's working on which jobs by subcontractor. When you get to those sort of schedules, I don't know if we've got any data here, let's just have a look. No, but if there was a schedule by subcontractor of who they're supposed to be, what jobs they're supposed to be working on, you can go in once you see a schedule like that and print it, just by clicking on the print button, or indeed the function key F6, that'll print out the schedule. Or you could export the data automatically into the likes of Microsoft Excel, and then send that information out to the subcontractor if that's the format he wants. Okay, so I'll just come out of that particular schedule, and back at the job menu here. So there's a whole lot of different job schedules, and we can also get things called task schedules. Now, task schedules are where you want to attach different work tasks to a job. So who's going to organise the plan approval with council, who's going to order materials, arrange for subcontractor, all these different tasks you can make a list of, assign them to employees to be done by a certain date, and nominate the hours they should take to do them. And here we attach them to a job, but here we're seeing an overall task schedule by date and by employee of what they're supposed to be doing. Tasks due to complete by due date as well. Okay, so that's all those schedules are updated from this first group anyway, from 38 to 44, by just simply opening the job. Now, one of the other schedules that's updated was the quick timesheet entry, this schedule of who's supposed to be working on jobs by date, by employee. And as you can see, these ones are already, we've finished these particular jobs, and this one's been started. Now this is the quick timesheet entry screen. What we're seeing on the screen at this stage is who's scheduled to do this work on this job, on what date they're scheduled to do the work, and times as well. At the moment, the actual work date and time is all blank, so that we haven't actually got to this one. Now the dominant feature on the screen, of course, is all these different buttons here. So when we're ready to start work, all we need to do is click on the Start Work button. I'll do that now. And that brings in the status is now no longer blank, it's got started. We've got today's date and the time, and a little flag to say yes, we've started the work. Now that's all you need to do until such time as you've completed the work, which you can just click on the End button. And what will happen then is the system will automatically update this file here, number 1, view start pause times. It will show the actual times that this person's worked on this job, and it will from there it will automatically update the employee normal timesheet that we just entered a moment ago. It will update all those costs against the job in total, by phase, by cost group, by cost item, and of course the cost ledger. All those costs will be updated. The employee performance analysis, the weekly summary of time by work class, all that's updated just by clicking on this Start Work, End Work button. We've got a pause button, of course, so if you've paused work by to have a lunch break or some other such thing, that will just put a halt to the timing, and then of course you can just click on the Restart button. Now if you have a touch screen, quite useful of course to just be able to use your finger to do these, click on these buttons just by just pressing the screen. Or if you're out in the field, you could have a wireless remote wide area network situation. Again, you can see a schedule of work they've been assigned by employee. They can just call it up and very simply, without any data entry as such, click on these buttons and the system does everything for them. Hence we use the word quick timesheets. Once again, we can if at the same time put job expense recovery. That's menu number 7. That's for disbursements and that sort of thing, like might be nuts, screws, rivets, glue, all that sort of, those little minor costs, sundry costs if you like. We can also put stock issues, which is maybe in their van if in case of service people, so where they've used materials on a job they can make a note on their timesheet. That can be recorded right here as well without exiting the screen. If we want to change employee rates or anything to do with the employee, we can link straight into the employee file. Here it is again, and we can change the charge rates or what they're being paid, and that will update everything automatically. Alright, so we'll leave that for a moment and come back into it and pause the work and see what the effect is. Okay, so here's our timesheet, and I've now just clicked on the End Work button, and that's brought in the actual finished time and calculated the total hours. The last segment of work was only 0.298. And if I go into this view start pause times, it shows us the kind of, I'll just bring that up into the view here, it shows us the work history of what's happened on this particular task. As you can see, it's been paused a couple of different times and restarted and finally ended and finished on this when I clicked that End of Work button, and it's calculated the total hours for this task is 1.41 hours, of course posted it up there. Not only is it posted up there, but as I mentioned before, it's updated all the other related files, including the normal timesheet entry has been updated, the job analysis by employee, the cost breakdown against the job in terms of the total cost, broken down by phase, if you've got that option of course, by cost group, by cost item, and of course the job cost ledger itself as a ledger item. All those files have been updated just as if you did a normal timesheet, except in this case of course all we've done is gone to the work schedule and clicked on a start and end button, and that was all that was required to do the timesheet entry. Well, I'll go back now to the main menu. Well, we've basically put in timesheets now both through the normal method and the quick timesheet entry method. There is actually another option there underneath the jobs menu, which is timesheets by date, and basically you can set up a summary by date, and then underneath each of those dates you can of course drill down into the timesheets by employee and indeed by job. That's a very similar form of data entry, again, in this case just showing you a financial summary for the day. Either way that you enter your timesheets, all three timesheet entries are updated automatically. So in other words, when we're in quick timesheets, it's updating the normal timesheets and that summary by date for you, in case you wanted to switch between the different methods of entering timesheets. Even under the job itself, if we go back and look at the job, again just briefly, you'll see here's the job header again. If we go into transactions and processes, even under the job itself, as part of the cost transactions that you can do, you'll see there's the option of quick timesheets, normal timesheet entry there. So you could be entering timesheets underneath the job. Either way, it's like a mirror file. The two timesheet entry transaction files update each other, the one under the job and the one back under the job cost menu. Also, when we look at the accounting menu of the main menu, here's the accounting menu, and we see a list of transactions. Of course, if you have the job cost module, you'll see the job cost related transactions, and top of that list once again is the timesheet entry. So timesheets are shown throughout the InterAcct system. You don't have to be in one particular menu, you can get access to it all over the show. As to if you have the payroll module, that's a separate module. The two can talk to each other if you really want that. There are some issues in terms of data integrity between timesheets and payroll, because under the timesheet entry there's no compulsion to reconcile the exact number of hours worked with the exact number of hours paid. You could be charging more or less hours by employee against a job for the purposes of job costing and billing, and not necessarily worry about reconciliation to pay. As you did see, there was quite a neat little payroll or timesheet summary that you can reconcile to your pay if you'd like to, but shows your breakdown of hours, normal time, time and a half, double time, and allowances and all those sorts of things.